His hand brushed against mine as he leaned closer, the tip of his pen grazing my notebook like it had no respect for boundaries. The way he pressed down, slow and heavy, it wasn't just ink spreading, it was him, invading every corner of me without asking. I could feel my breath hitch, my thighs pressed together under the desk. His presence was too much, too close, too intoxicating. "Do you want me to keep writing?" he whispered, his lips barely an inch from my ear. I froze, though my heart was already answering with a wild yes. The words on the page blurred. The only thing I could think about was how his pen seemed to tear my paper with admiration, with hunger, the same way his eyes tore at my clothes without even touching me. But wait, before I go further, let me pause. If you're listening to me right now, I want you to hit that subscribe button, tap the like, and share this story with someone who loves to hear confessions that burn. Because what I'm about to tell you is not fiction, it's my truth. My secret. My adventure. And it's the reason I remain anonymous. Now, let's go back to where it all began. It wasn't in a classroom or an office. It started much simpler, much more innocent. A small cafe tucked between Main and Lincoln in downtown Chicago. I used to go there for peace, a place to write in my little notebook, my thoughts, my fantasies, my regrets. But that morning, fate was cruel and kind at once. He was already there, sitting by the window, a man I'd seen only once before but couldn't forget. His presence filled the space. Broad shoulders under a worn leather jacket, dark hair that begged fingers to slide through, and eyes that felt like midnight, dangerous, quiet, and endless. He had a notebook too, and when he noticed mine, he smirked. Like two strangers carrying secrets in plain sight. I should have ignored him. I should have kept my eyes on my coffee. But when his pen rolled off the table and landed by my feet, I bent down, picked it up, and handed it back. That was the first touch. The spark. The ignition of something I didn't plan, didn't expect, but desperately needed. He leaned in then, close enough for me to catch the faint smell of cedar and ink. "Funny," he said, "my pen finds its way to you." I laughed, nervously. Maybe it just prefers my paper. And that was it. That single line tied me to him in ways I couldn't escape. From that moment, his pen and my paper became metaphors for nights that blurred the line between admiration and destruction. Nights where exhaustion met obsession. But in that cafe, it was just a beginning. He asked for my name. I didn't give it. I asked for his. He refused too. That's how we stayed, two nameless souls bound by something stronger than names. And as he wrote a single word on my notebook without asking, mine, I knew I was already in trouble. I wish I could tell you I was innocent. That my body didn't betray me the moment his lips hovered close, that I didn't ache for his touch as though it was oxygen. But lying here, confessing to you all, I know better. His pen wasn't just meant to write, it was meant to carve me open, and I let him. But before I go further, please, pause for me. If you're watching this, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who dares to explore secrets like mine. Your support keeps me brave enough to speak about what I can't ever say aloud. Back to that night. The hotel room smelled faintly of old whiskey and fresh ink. He had brought his leather-bound notebook, though we both knew no writing would happen. He liked to tease me, sliding the pen between his fingers, tapping it against my thigh, reminding me with every stroke that words weren't the only things his hands knew how to form. I was exhausted, but desire doesn't respect fatigue. He leaned close, whispering in my ear, "You're trembling like paper. Do you know how badly I want to tear into you?" My body answered before my mouth could. I should have said no. I should have remembered my vows, the ring on my finger, the husband at home waiting for my return. Instead, I spread wide, like paper desperate for ink, while his hands held me in place. Halfway through, as his rhythm grew reckless, he laughed low and dark. "You're mine, even in exhaustion. Tell me you'll admit it." And I did. Whispered it. Shamefully. Breathlessly. I was his lustful canvas, his secret journal. My exhaustion only fueled him more, and my silence turned to moans that betrayed everything I once thought I stood for. Somewhere inside, a voice begged me to stop. But louder than that voice was the craving, the ache, for more of his pen against my fragile paper. And yes, even now as I speak to you, I wonder if I've already lost the line between desire and destruction. But that night, destruction felt so damn beautiful. I shouldn't have let it go that far. That's the truth. But when I say his presence was like a flame pressed too close to my skin, I'm not exaggerating. He had a way of making my body listen before my head could even protest. It was late afternoon, and the blinds in the hotel room let stripes of gold fall across the sheets. My heart raced as his hand pressed my notebook flat on the desk, the pages I had scribbled full of excuses and empty lines of loyalty. He whispered, "Forget the paper, let me write on you instead." I froze, yet melted. His mouth found the side of my neck, and I felt like my words, my lies, my careful excuses, were being undone, one by one. I know some of you watching this, listening to me now, may be shaking your heads. But before you judge, make sure you've hit that subscribe button and tap like if you've ever been caught between what's right and what feels irresistible. This is my truth, and I'm bearing it so raw because I promised myself, no matter how shameful, I'd stay honest here. He leaned back, pulled a pen from his shirt pocket, strange, bold, almost playful. Then he drew a line across my bare skin, the ink trailing over my stomach like he was drafting a poem only he could read. And then he said it, his voice low, "Your paper is fragile, but I'll tear it with every stroke." And he did. Every touch of him felt like heavy ink bleeding deep, making the paper of my body stretch, ache, and surrender. I remember clutching the sheets, my own voice betraying me with sounds I'd promised myself I'd never give him. Midway, when his lips crashed over mine again, I wanted to remind myself it was wrong. But instead, I'll remind you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want me to keep revealing every forbidden detail of these nights. Because the truth is, his pen didn't just tear my paper. It left stains no eraser can wash away. And in that moment, with every vigorous, admiring stroke, I knew my lies had finally been rewritten. I don't even know how to put this into words without trembling. That night, when he showed up at my apartment unannounced, I thought I could resist. I thought my excuses, my lies, and the thin fabric of my so-called loyalty would be enough to shield me. But the truth is, his presence alone shredded me into something bare. The moment he closed the door behind him, I felt it, the kind of silence that doesn't rest but burns. He didn't rush toward me, not at first. No, he let me feel his gaze, like a pen hovering above paper, daring me to surrender the words I had hidden for so long. And then it happened. His hands claimed my waist, his lips brushed my neck, and I melted into him as though I had been waiting for this exact invasion. The pen, his hunger, his force, his sheer persistence, tore into my paper, my carefully drawn lines of caution and excuses. Every touch erased a boundary. Every kiss turned my lies into confessions. He whispered my name, but not gently. It was raw, as if he wanted me to hear how much he owned this moment. And when I tried to protest, tried to pretend I still had control, he kissed me harder. My knees buckled, my breath shattered, and I realized there was no turning back. Like, share, and subscribe if you're still with me, I whispered into this retelling now. Because this isn't just a story, it's the unraveling of a woman who thought she could hide, but couldn't. When he lifted me onto the table, scattering papers I once thought were important, I knew I was completely undone. The pen doesn't ask the paper for permission, it simply writes, tears, imprints. And I let him write his story across my body, careless of the ache, desperate for more. My lies had no place anymore. His lips erased them, his hands rewrote them, and his intensity carved something I couldn't deny. And yes, it hurt. But it was the kind of hurt I would crave again and again, because it reminded me that I was alive, that I was wanted beyond reason. By the end of that night, I wasn't the same woman. I was ink-stained, torn, scattered, and yet, strangely, I had never felt more whole. The last time his hands were on me, I thought it would be the end of my secret, the last page of the book we had been writing behind closed doors. But instead, It felt like the beginning of another novel, one I never had the courage to imagine. That evening, the city glowed. Neon lights flickered against the wet pavement, and every shadow outside his apartment seemed to know what I was about to do. My heart pounded so loudly it almost drowned out the sound of my heels. When I stepped inside, he was already waiting, a glass of wine in one hand, and that look, God, that look, that said I was the only ink he wanted to spill tonight. He pulled me in before I could think, before guilt had a chance to knock. His lips, hot and desperate, pressed against mine like they were scribbling a confession straight onto my skin. My knees trembled, my body answering questions my mind refused to ask. "Don't stop," I whispered. "I wouldn't, even if I could," he replied, voice hoarse, like a writer addicted to the page. The truth is, every time he touched me, I became his canvas, his paper, torn not by violence but by passion, admiringly, worshipfully. He left no space untouched, no margin unmarked. In the middle of it, I had to smile at myself. If you're watching this right now, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because my story isn't just about lust, it's about that reckless hunger that turns into a confession too loud to hide. By the time dawn crawled through the blinds, we lay there, breathless, torn, and yet whole in ways no one else could understand. His hand rested on my hip like he was guarding a secret, one that would never be written but always remembered. I slipped away quietly, the world outside still asleep, my lips bruised but smiling. Yes, I'm married. No, he never found out. And maybe he never will. But here's the thing, sometimes the most destructive stories are the ones that feel the most alive. And you, my listener, are the only ones I dare tell. So if you want more confessions like mine, if you crave the kind of stories that keep your pulse racing and your chest aching, don't just watch, be part of this. Subscribe, hit that like button, and share this secret with others who understand what it means to live in the shadows of desire. Because my chapters may close, but the ink never dries. Sparkles that gives you a rousing, subscriber-enhanced, romantic yet dangerous ending. I still remember the way his touch lingered like ink spilling across every fragile sheet of me, leaving words only our bodies could read. His pen, his hunger, tore through my guarded layers, and I let it, admiring the way destruction turned into desire, how ruin made me reborn. When I close my eyes tonight, it won't be my husband's face I see, but his, the man who devoured me without apology, who made exhaustion feel like ecstasy, who turned my silence into a confession whispered in gasps and moans. And maybe, just maybe, that's why I'm here, telling you this story in secret. Because sometimes the sweetest sins are the ones no one ever finds out about. Kiss Mark if my confession burned through you like his lips burned through me, then don't just sit in silence. Tap that like button, leave your thoughts in the comments, and share this with someone who craves stories that pierce straight to the heart and deeper. Most importantly, subscribe to this channel, because more secrets, more lust, more forbidden chapters of love are still to come. My story isn't over, it's only getting hotter, wilder, and harder to keep hidden. So stay close, because you never know when my next anonymous confession will drop.